Welcome to this live edition of Rev Talk. Here's your host and author, Shane, better known to many as simply the Black Swan.
All right, welcome to Rev Talk. Today I have a special guest, Derek. Welcome to the show. How you been?
Been doing good. Missed you last week. Was on vacation last week, and I was trying to make pop-ins on various shows, just depending on where it was and what the family was doing, and I couldn't make it last week, but missed you last week. I always miss your fellowship and enjoy being able to chit chat with you a little bit about current events and whatnot. So it was a good week though. Nice week with family, nice week spending time. It's always good. Always good to give it a little family time.
So where did you go?
Oh man, where didn't we go? We made a huge loop. We didn't go really far. I think the furthest drive was about an 8-hour drive, but we just packed so much in within about 5 days time. We drove out to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and saw 3 museums in Tulsa. Then we worked our way north and stopped up in Kansas because I've never been in Kansas. We found a really cool little pit stop on Route 66. You hear so much about Route 66, which is like a classic American, highway type thing. And for anybody that remembers, years ago, they did a kids movie called Cars. I think it was a Disney movie, Cars. And it was all about kind of this town that was once this booming town. And then the interstate came through and it became like a ghost town because everybody, avoided the town and got on the interstate. And that's what so many of those Route 66 towns were like when the interstate came through. Well, we found one just like that. I should say my son did anyway. He found it. And there was an old 50s gas station that's what they sold, was like old mementos and souvenirs, and it was all done up to be like the Cars, the movie from Cars. It was really cool. And then from there we wandered into Missouri, or Missouri as they call it. I don't know, I always said Missouri, but they call it Missouri. And we saw the Joplin tornado monument. We weren't planning on that, but we stopped in Joplin for lunch and just came across the park and spent some time there. And then we made our way into Branson and explored a cave there and had some fun in Branson. And eventually we wound up back in Kentucky, which is just north of where I live in Tennessee. And we did the Ark experience. So, which is so appropriate that, we're talking about floods and as in the days of Noah, because that was the whole theme of the Ark experience. They did a really good job of replicating what the Ark, to scale, to size, what it would have looked like, the way that they may have kept the animals while they were there. And they did a super job of presenting the gospel and really just hammering home what the days of Noah are, that, we are very much ripe for judgment, just like they were in the days of Noah. So they did a fantastic job with that. And like I said, after that, we just trekked our way home and, been trying to kind of unwind and get back to life as usual. But it was great. It's always good to have a little family time. I mean, my children are, grown adults now, but they still enjoy spending time with their mom and I. And as long as that's the case, we're always more than happy to spend a little time with them. So
You also went into you actually went inside that arch.
yes, yeah, I
in St.
failed to
Louis.
mention that. Yeah, I went into the St. Louis Gateway Arch, and that was this July 2nd. I was in that, which was a couple days. I don't think I would have wanted to be in that on the 4th of July, because not that, I have any kind of harbor any kind of spirit of fear, but with all the chatter about 4th of July, I'm like, I don't know if I want to be in a national monument on the 4th of July, because there was just too much chatter going on. But that was a great experience. We were talking a little bit before the show. You've been up in it as well, and
Yep.
the thing that was really crazy was, they take you up in this thing in a little, it's kind of like an elevator, kind of like an escalator, kind of like a Ferris wheel. I don't really know what to call it, but you get into this thing through a little door that's only about 2 foot by 4 foot high. And you literally feel like you're getting into the escape pod on the Death Star, like this little escape pod. And the thing is no bigger than it. I mean, there's 5 seats in there, but you sit there cramped. I'm not a tall guy. I'm only about 5'8", and my head was like, I'm like, how would a 6 foot tall person even fit in here? Because like my head was
Difficult,
just,
very difficult.
yeah. But you ride all the way up, and it has a little glass window. You can see all of the emergency stairs throughout the arch, and then you get all the way to the top, and you take a few stairs to get to the very top of the arch. And I mean, the views are just breathtaking and spectacular. They give you about 10 minutes to hang out up there and take pictures or whatever you want to do. And it was really cool. It was quite an experience. So yeah, we got that in too. I mean, it's just, we did so much in such a short amount of time. It was just such a blessing to be able to, to do stuff. Sir Edward is asking, are there fun things to do in Branson? There's a lot of fun. You could spend a lot of money in Branson. I'll tell you, here's a little side note of what we did in Branson. So the whole reason we went to Branson was about 5, 6 years ago, my wife and I went there for an anniversary of ours because we wanted to try something different. And it's very Branson's very similar to like Pigeon Forge, which is in my state of Tennessee. So we've kind of already been through that experience, but we thought let's try something new. So we went to Branson. And while we were there, I found out something new about my wife. I never knew before. I mean, I'd been married to her at this point, like I think it was my 25th anniversary. And in 25 years, I never knew my wife had any interest whatsoever in caves, but she wanted to see a cave. So we sat through a 2-hour presentation of a timeshare to get free tickets to Silver Dollar City in Branson, which is a big theme park, but it also has a very big cave in the middle of it called Marvel Cave. And it was really cool, really fantastic. So the whole idea in going back to Branson, because my kids had never saw it, I thought, well, let's make a stop in Branson and you guys can come see the cave too. The problem was we didn't realize they're like $100 a person. And we were all like, that's a little pricey. You found the cave. If you ever go to Branson, go to Talking Rocks Cavern. It's about 30 minutes outside of Branson. It's only $36 a person to go see the cave. Plus, if you want to add on another $6, you get to play mini golf. We spent like 5 or 6 hours. We had a blast. It was very affordable. We hiked trails. We went in the cave about 100 foot underground. It was really, really cool. So that was my Branson experience.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And we also have Brother Bob Barber.
Senor Bob.
I think he's here somewhere. He's here.
He's here, but he heard me going on and on about. He's like, I'll take a break. Derek's still talking.
Yeah,
how are you, brother? Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you, bro. Good to see both of you guys. Just dealing with my dogs.
Yeah. Welcome to the
They start playing. They're not quiet, so now you gotta leave.
Yeah, for sure. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We're going to be talking a little bit about Texas floods. Is it a black swan event? That kind of thing. What's going on in the United States of America? And but first, I wanted to find out how your weekend has been, how your 4th of July has been.
Really good. Well, we're still here, and there has not been any massive events that took place outside of Texas. Stuff like that. So something still happened, but just didn't happen in the spot that we thought it would.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate what happened there. And I'll tell you what, that was not natural. That was all man-made. It was all done by our government. We can get into all that, but they did it. That was not man-made. I mean, that was not natural. That was all man-made right there. One good example is NASA, the International Space Station, actually showed a energy spike coming from something right there, right at the border of Texas and Mexico, right there, 24 hours before, or like 18 hours before the whole thing went down. They didn't know what it was. It was like a big, huge, bright, So evidently DARPA, whatever our government did, or whoever's behind it, they triggered that event. They made it happen, and all that blood is on their hands. And these people are going to be judged. They keep doing this stuff, but they don't realize, man. If anything happened to those girls, man, Jesus said, if you offend any of these little ones, if children are dying by your hands, man, you are going to have a hell of a time in hell. Because you have a far greater punishment waiting for you. All you people that are part of this, you have a great punishment, a far greater punishment waiting for you when you die. Okay. And a far greater punishment is waiting for you at the white throne judgment. And I hope I get to judge you, because I'm going to be harsh. I'm going to give you maximum punishment.
Wow.
If you come to me, I'm giving you maximum punishment. Whoever's behind this, I'm giving you maximum punishment. The deepest, darkest part of the lake of fire, that's where you're going. You're going deeper than Satan. Okay, I'm going to be harsh on these people. If God lets me judge them, Bob, I'm not going to let you judge these guys.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so I'm guessing the sentiment that this would be more planned than not from Bob. What are your thoughts on this? And then I'm going to dive into a definition of a black swan event, and then maybe we can see if this fits the category or not. What are your thoughts, Derek, around this?
Well,
Did you?
I kind of agree with Bob, but I also think there is some natural element to it. What I think is going on is, and actually I'm going to share a screen. I just came across this article just earlier today, and I thought, man, this fits
Okay.
perfectly with what you're talking about. So, I don't know if you could see that or not,
Yep.
but
Yep.
so I just came across this article, and it's talking about the Southern Ocean current reverses for the first time, signaling risk of climate system collapse. And it's really interesting. You read through this whole thing. It has to do with what's called the Gulf Stream, which is kind of it says here, the South Atlantic, part of the global conveyor belt of ocean currents, which typically pulls in nutrient-rich water from the ocean floor, drives planetary heat distribution. I mean, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but on and on and on. This talking about this is an unprecedented observation and a potential game changer. According to this is a weakening of the Antarctic overturning circulation. There's been a lot of speculation that the whole Gulf Stream could come to a halt. And then there was a line down here. Here's the line. This is the money line. The planet is sending us increasingly clear signals that we are crossing critical thresholds. I would like to modify that just a little bit. It's not the planet. This is the Lord God. This is the creator of heaven and earth sending us increasingly clear signals that we are crossing critical thresholds. Now, I happen to believe, I mean, just my personal opinion, I've talked about this before. I think there's probably a pole shift going on that's leading to a lot of this climate change. It's leading to a lot of this where the Gulf Stream isn't acting the way it should. The jet stream doesn't act the way it should anymore. That's why we're getting such extreme weather. But with what Bob is saying is also exactly accurate, because what our governments of this world are in control of is equipment which can, let's just say, give the weather a little shove. If they see something coming, it's almost like if you're driving down the highway and you see a sign saying, beware falling rocks, and there's a cliff wall that's got loose rocks. Well, you might not be able to knock every rock off that cliff wall, but if you throw a rock at it, chances are, in other words, they are manipulating and they are manufacturing chaotic events, because it's easier to create chaos than order. And so if they've got something that they can direct energy at something that's already kind of a mess, it's just going to make it a bigger mess. So that's kind of where I stand on that. And like I said, the climate is, I mean, it's changing. I don't agree with why they say it's changing. I think it's, again, I think it's natural causes that the Lord has started to put in play, because we are marching towards that tribulation. But even as we're doing that, like Bob is saying, there are wicked men out there and wicked women, that are running the governments of the world, that know how to manipulate these things to make them even worse than what they already are. And that's what's happening. That's why God says that he's going to destroy those who destroy the earth. That's a promise he gives us in Revelation. He will destroy those who destroy the earth. There's people out there that just don't care. They don't care about lives. They just want to see maximum chaos because it suits their purposes.
Right. Oh, that's cool. That's interesting. And maybe there's a way to tie this all in together. So, as you know, I approach basically every event from the perspective of a black swan. Is this a black swan? Is this not a black swan? So a couple of days ago, July 3rd, I made a video explaining why we don't learn from history. And I went through the definition of a black swan in real detail. And I was talking about the idea that me personally, the black swan was expecting a black swan event. And usually when people look in this direction, I look in another direction. So what I was looking at, I was kind of focusing a little bit more on Washington, D.C. And I was thinking, something big is going to happen with fireworks and all this stuff. So a definition of a black swan event is this here. It's an outlier. And I talked about that in my video. It said it's highly unexpected. It lies outside the realm of regular expectations because nothing in the past can convincingly point to its possibility. So what tends to happen afterwards, and I'll talk about that, but if you're in a black swan event, the conversation will generally go like this, especially if you start watching the news. No one saw it coming. The models that we had are outdated. They didn't predict it. We've had floods before, but never on this scale. That's kind of the the chirpiness in the background of what happens. And this is kind of like, it's almost like breadcrumbs that lead you towards a black swan. Doesn't mean it is a black swan, but these are the conversations that you can listen in on. Also, it has to have a shock factor. For example, in what happened with the Texas flood, say Texas, obviously it wasn't the whole state of Texas, but that narrows it down a bit. There was a 20-foot surge that, depending who you talk to, some people say it happened overnight. Some people say it happened within 45 minutes. It's still shocking with little to no warning. So now you can start forming, is this a black swan? The second criteria, again, is it has to have extreme impact. It carries an extreme impact. Texas, in that area, Kerrville, is going to be devastated for years to come. So economically, emotionally, structurally, socially, it's all like kind of like all bets are off as to how much this is going to cost to rebuild. So, for example, entire towns have to be cut off, dozens dead, children gone, camps vanished, national disaster declared. This is all kind of what happened. So this lets you know that lives are changing instantly. Parents are waiting for reports of their missing children. Devastating, right? And then the third criteria, and this is the thing that I think makes it more of a black swan event, is that people start concocting ideas or thoughts or theories as to why we should have expected this. Why like we should have seen this coming. That's part of the criteria of a black swan. So despite being unpredictable, like we just said, human nature makes us try to explain it after the fact, as if it were expected all along. And this is called the narrative fallacy. So, for example, the experts will say, we should have known, the lakes were full, the soil was saturated, the signs were there. Or people get mad. They go, where were those voices before the flood? So this is what I look for in the stories, either before, during, or after. And when you watch anything about the flood that happened in Kerrville, going back to what Bob said, there was no news on July 4th, zero about this. I found a channel that actually was broadcasting for 9 hours from basically 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, July 3rd, all the way till 6 o'clock the next morning. And they had a radar grid over top talking about the storms. And there was a gentleman, I think he talked for like 20 minutes or so. And I want to play like 1 or 2 minutes because I think it's important, is to just set the atmosphere of what was leading into it, how people were thinking legitimately. And again, this kind of fits the model of when people are thinking after the event happens, you tend to erase history. As in, for YouTube, the footage before the flood is going to be harder and harder to find because they got to hide some of the evidence that we didn't see it come, whatever it is. And they're talking about it and they're saying, look, here's a flash flood coming or whatever. Those channels they will move down on YouTube and you won't be able to find them. It's very difficult because now, again, part of the black swan criteria is you need to reward the heroes. You don't reward the people that say, hey, this place flooded last year and it took us all year to fix it. And now we're being hit with a 20-foot flood. Like last year was only 4 feet and it devastated the area. Those guys don't get rewarded. Who gets rewarded now, especially over the next 2-3 days, are the people that find the missing children, the people that find the grandparents that are stuck in a trailer. This is where the news is going to be for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month. There's no accountability to the government to say, it kind of feels like you guys did this on purpose or you overlooked something or whatever. So we're going to start building up the case for heroes now. We need heroes to overcompensate on what actually happened. Nobody's going to investigate it if you have some nice hero stories. Look what came out of this. We rescued a cat in a tree or a family or whatever it is, and let's listen to their story. And now we're captivated. And then Trump comes on and says, I'm going to give them billions of dollars to fix this problem so it'll never happen again. Well, that's the black swan. It'll never happen twice. So I'm going to play this video for like a minute or two. So be patient if you need a cup of coffee, whatever. Cool. But I think this will help build what we're trying to say, and what we're trying to talk about is, even though some people know it's coming on, the government's kind of keeping it low, keeping it on the low, because again, there was nothing for 12 hours. On July 3rd, a news outlet said potential flash flood tonight, but they always get flash flood warnings here and there, right, for that area. And then no news for 12 hours, zero. And the only news that showed up was at 1 o'clock in the morning saying, you now have a 20-foot high flood. Get out of there. And it's too late. It's over. So that gap is where I believe the black swan lives. Why weren't people being warned hours before? And we'll talk about that. But I think it's important just to share what this guy talks about at the beginning. This will give you a real pulse of how people felt.
Good evening. It's Thursday. I'm Bill Taylor, Ken's 5 Digital Center. Blessings to you and yours on this fabulous evening. I hope you're having a good one. We've got some very heavy rain moving across North Bexar County, heading up to the 281 corridor right now. Also, the I-10 corridor, Bernie, is getting very heavy rainfall. Some thunderstorm activity, but nothing severe. This is not an environment conducive to hail or anything tornadic or even damaging winds. I think there could be some gusty winds of 30 or 40 miles per hour in and around these thunderstorms that are developing. But the primary threat with this is going to be flooding. We're going to see rainfall rates really, really impressive with these tropical downpours. 2 to 3 inches per hour is definitely a possibility with these. And you can see that one pocket that's very heavy just on either side of Bernie, really, and on both sides of Bernie, and that one that's on the eastern side, moving up to 281 corridor, that's the heaviest rain on the map right now. Let's get in there a little bit tighter, and let's just do a now graphic. Let's just look at that fresh radar screen.
So just for perspective, this is basically this is at 8 o'clock at night, 8:30. So if you think about it, in Texas, people are maybe an hour or so from getting ready to go to bed. Tomorrow is going to be the 4th of July. No rain, no real, like he said, he mentioned floods and stuff. But when you look at the light to heavy, it's mostly green and yellow. Mostly green and yellow. So he's getting ready to wrap up to go to bed. And I'm not going to play. I'll play it for another minute, but just to give you perspective that they're already aware that it's raining. They're already aware of it.
Also want to switch over and show you the Facebook activity. Okay, I'm going to have to go out and do this again now. It's not updating comments, which is always a hassle because then I don't see your comments right away, y'all. Inch of rain, north side of Canyon Lake. Nice, JJ. That's good stuff. Happy 4th, Mike. What's going on? Yeah, you won't see much there, far west San Antonio right now. But I want to get an idea on these rainfall rates. North of Timberwood Park, almost 2 inches per hour. So this is very heavy rain.
Imagine if you dropped straight into your competitor's marketing meeting.
All right. More commercials, but I don't want to deaden the show by having this guy talk the whole time. the important thing is he's looking at it, and he's looking at it from the perspective of a radar or a weather expert, and he's looking at it like, man, lots of rain, but nothing to see here because it's only like 2 to 3 inches of rain. Once you get to that 6-7 inches of rain per hour, you're starting to talk about flash flooding potential and all this kind of stuff. And it starts to unravel, but he's going to bed going, there's nothing to see here. There's no reason for me to stay up. And he left the radar open because I think this was just a local station. And if you fast forward it to like 1 o'clock in the morning, you could see the green turning to yellow to orange right over Curview. You could see it. And it went for like 9 hours. So you can actually see when everybody's asleep, that's when they're getting pummeled. And then I thought about it for a second. I'm like, why wouldn't they let people know what's going on here? I'll just show you this little map here. So again, I think Bob tied to something there saying, that this could be man-made and that kind of stuff. And it's kind of interesting. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, what happened was, I actually just watched the video. It was normal, like you said.
Yep.
But after they seeded the clouds or do their hocus pocus that the International Space Station caught them doing, it took some time for it to take effect. All right. And once it did, it started compounding. And then that's when it took full effect. And when it took full effect, actually, you said that it was there for 9 hours. Essentially, it formed a hurricane over Texas. And the hurricane spun, it didn't move. It just sat there and dumped and dumped and dumped and dumped and dumped.
Yeah.
It didn't bother move. It just sat there.
Yeah.
When did a hurricane do that?
No, and that's interesting because there were reports that it kind of felt like the storm had kind of settled in one area for some weird reason that they couldn't figure out. They're like, oh, this is okay, kind of weird. And then they just kind of move away from it. And when you talk about man-made stuff, what's interesting here is if you look at Kerrville down here, this is where they got a huge part of the flood. All along here is this Cajalupi River. This is where everything happened all along the river. But as you notice right here, this number 39, this is basically Junction Highway. And the reason why I bring that up is let me see if I can zoom in on this. It's all along. I don't know if the audience can see it, but it's all along the river. All along. So meaning if you evacuate the town, if you tell the town, hey, look, there is a flash flood imminent or whatever, you're going to send all these people onto this highway, which is all along this river. And it's going to cause even more damage. I feel more damage. But what people were complaining that night was, why didn't you close the road? So they didn't tell anybody. And if they knew about it, they didn't close the road off to tell people, hey, this is actually dangerous for you to go down here. And people were left in the dark about what's going on, even though there were little tiny rumors and reports that rain is coming down the pipes. And this is something that we have all this technology. We have Elon Musk wanting to go to Mars, billions of dollars going to Mars to live underground for hundreds of years to maybe one day be able to get oxygen going on Mars again and all this stuff. But yet something like this, where they call it Flash Flood Alley, and nobody can see this coming. Nobody cares to go, hey, why don't we fix this before? Why do they always dump money at it after it's over?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what perhaps Bob is getting at too. Like, you have something going off on the coast. It's almost like they want this stuff to happen in some ways, like to make it, because otherwise you would spend more money beforehand to prevent it from happening, but they would rather have all eyes on what the government is doing. They're going to be spending more money now to help this, so this doesn't ever happen again on this scale. And I think
Mhm.
that gets confusing for people, because it's like, well, we still have lost loved ones. You're not being accountable for what happened. You're putting a big Band-Aid with a financial price tag attached to it. You're patting us on the shoulders saying, we will not rest till we find everyone. Okay, cool. That's reasonable. That's what you should be doing. But how did we get here? That's the bigger question. How did we
That's
get
like
here?
that's like what happened in North Carolina, what happened in LA, what's happening over there now. It's all strategic. A lot of the same stories you listen to. Oh, the people, once again, the people are in the trees. Got to get them out of the trees. Once again, you got all the stories are exactly the same as they were in North Carolina. Unfortunately for North Carolina, it got cold over there. At least over here, it's not cold right now.
Yeah.
All right. But everything that's happened because of this flooding is exact same story all over again. It came out of nowhere. It was a once in a lifetime flood. When they say that, I was like, I understand if a levee broke, that would probably cause it. I don't know what the terrain looks like over there. Was it an earthquake that caused all the water to come there? No, the water got pulled from the earth and got transported over that part of Texas, and it got dumped. How did that happen? Well, we have weather machines. We have patents, many different patents, war equipment. We actually have weather war treaties with other nations. Okay, and we've had those since the 70s. So we've had this technology for 55 years. Okay, so 55 years of this technology, and we were able to do a lot of damage in Vietnam and use all this stuff. And that was way back then. Can you imagine how far we've come now?
Yeah.
With all the buoys and all the equipment they have underneath on the floors of the oceans.
Yeah.
Okay. And the satellites that are involved.
Yeah.
And your main epicenters like HARP, and your main centers that are coordinating all these things, and top of the seating and everything else.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think they really perfected their craft, Shane, at this point, to be able to pinpoint and cause maximum damage. And it's going to be interesting. Watch what happens with all the real estate over there now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Watch all the big people coming there. Oh, only we can buy it.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't get your land back. Here's your $700, Derek.
Yeah.
Yep.
Be all the same crap all over again.
Yep. This area that I mentioned, I don't know if you could see that area. It's called New Lake Ingram. That's a man-made lake. That lake was made by man, and it's interesting that it's not built for dams. It's not built to hold water, even though it holds water. It was built for more of a place to hang out and have fun. So they built the lake, and it holds water, but there's nothing in it in case of a flood. There's no gates or anything like that can kind of slowly let the water out, whatever it is. There's none of that. And that's man-made in an area that they call Flash Flood Alley, and you're building a lake alongside the river. This is another thing that contributes. To me, they didn't need a man-made lake there, but they built one, and they built it a couple of other places as well. And if you keep doing that, if you keep interrupting an area like that, and almost picture it, I'm going to use my Black Swan book as an example, but picture it almost like this, like a little valley. You have all these towns that are inside this valley, and you got rain on both sides. They're going to go into this valley where these two little mini lakes are, and that river, and eventually it gets to the Gulf. But if you put enough rainwater in there, you're going to wash out everything. And their models aren't predicting the precipitation in under the watershed, which is like all encompassing. What they're doing is they're predicting, okay, this little town has maybe 1 inch of rain. No threat here. Nothing to see here, folks. Move on. Meanwhile, all the water's running down from higher elevations. They're not counting that because those towns don't care about the towns that are at the lowest part because they're not in trouble. So why would you put a news warning flash alert for me? I'm on a hill. It's those guys down there that are in trouble. And meanwhile, they're like, no, nothing to see here. It's only a couple of inches of precipitation. We're okay. Let's go to sleep. But the watershed is every drop that the rain brings into that valley that gets washed eventually into the Gulf. That's billions and billions of water, gallons of water. You can't calculate that, nor do they want to use resources to calculate that stuff because they're not going to get a bonus this year with the government. They're going to be like, you're going to take our money to help these people? No. We'll just look the other way and hope that a flash flood doesn't kill more than maybe 100 people. If we're less than 100, people won't go into an uproar. If it's thousands of people, we got a riot on our hands. But if you can keep the toll low, maybe people will just let this pass and they won't keep us accountable. We'll spread it out over a couple of weeks and say, we did everything we can. We're going to throw more money at this so this never happens again. Yeah, but what about before, like hours before? Why were you guys silent for 12 hours? And then all day on Friday, all we heard was Trump talking about his big bill that he passed on the lawn and a B-2 bomber with fighter jets going above. And everybody's like, bravo, this is July 4th. Not one news outlet covered Texas when they were underwater. Nobody talked about it. I didn't get any feeds, and I'm looking for this stuff until Saturday morning at about 6 o'clock in the morning. All of a sudden, this just in, Texas flood. And I'm like, that's not just in. That happened almost 24 hours earlier.
Right.
So something was afoot. They purposely squashed any news, anything, and they just said, no, nothing to see here. Don't even bring it up. It's all about July 4th. And we talked about that. Man, something big is going to happen on July 4th, but we don't know what it is. We don't know where to look or whatever. I was thinking terrorist, but this kind of feels like if you're going to do something and start moving money around, this would be the place to do it. You just bury a town in water and then say, hey, we're going to dump money over here and move things around, buy real estate, help the people, whatever it is. You'll forget about what happened the day before. You're just going to forget about
Maybe
it.
they didn't want a whole bunch of bad news on the 4th of July.
Could be.
They're like, okay, we had the big, beautiful bill, right? You even had Alberta file for to leave Canada on the 4th of July. They got that going on. So that everybody's like, this is a bunch of great news, a big bill. Canada's going, we got all this stuff, great Trump, all this great stuff's going on. But unfortunately, down in Texas, people are dying. Little girls are dying because of this flood. Oh, we can't have that on 4th of July. Let's just, push that back. And today needs to be a good day, of good news.
100%. If you do that, just do the test yourself after the show.
Yeah.
Don't do it now. You will not find any flood news before July 4th. Like that night, you're not going to, it's all Saturday morning early. That's it.
The levee broke on Saturday morning.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And then they let all the bad news roll.
Yep.
So.
And now that's all we talk about because they knew if they did it Friday morning, as it was happening, we would send money and we would try and help and fix the problem and all this and get a better rescue effort going. No. This is going to rain on Trump's parade. This is going to look bad for the president. This is the 205th year. We can't have bad news.
Right. That's true. You can't have bad news on a day.
I really feel for those people down in Texas. We went through a very similar thing right around where I live about 4 years ago. It was August 21st, 2021, if I remember right. and we had a big flash flood, right in the vicinity where I live. Actually, the water fell on my community. I live in McHugh, and the water fell. We had like 20 inches of rain in the 24-hour period. I mean, it was just a massive amount of rain. And what happened was it's what they call training rain, where, this is why it was kind of, like you said, like a black swan. It was unpredictable because they knew the rain was coming. They just didn't know it was going to park itself over us and just keep rain. Usually weather moves in, weather moves out. Here it moved in and it just parked itself and just kept raining. We got 20 inches in a day's time, but yet we're a little bit higher. And so it all ran downhill and it went down to the town next to us, which is Waverly, which is actually a much bigger community. That's where like the county courthouse is and everything over in Waverly. And what was kind of interesting about the whole thing is again, in the aftermath, we lost lives, not as many as they have in Texas, but I think there was 21 or 22 people that lost their lives, including children. There was a couple of babies and a couple of young, small children that lost their lives in this. So it was a terrible thing. But in the aftermath, as you're starting to look at like what you call black swan type events, one of the things, in the aftermath, you're always looking and saying, well, we should have saw this coming. We should have been able to, prevent this. I remember what really struck me. Now, again, the 20 inches of rain, that was just, who could have forecast that? Where did that come from? But so much of the damage, so much of the destruction, so much of the death was totally preventable, because in the aftermath, what we learned was the reason that so many of those bridges washed out, the reason why the massive flood that hit Waverly, basically all of the rain went into a little river called Trace Creek, and the creek filled up, and there's like a levee that CSX, the railroad, is supposed to maintain, and they didn't maintain. So that levee broke and all of that water rushed into Waverly. And it was a similar story with all of the bridges, the problem was, as we started to, recover around this area. And I mean, it was terrible. I volunteered for a couple of days, help people, scoop out mud out of the floors of their home. And I'm picking out photographs and, finding people. Like I found somebody's wedding ring, and it was just so sad, to see all this people's memories just buried in mud. But what we learned was one of the reasons why this occurred is because the creeks have not been cleaned out in years. The creeks accumulate things. They get dead sticks and different logs and just stuff like that. And, I can tell you for a fact, on a much smaller level, I've got ditches around my house. I live on a hill. I've got drainage ditches. And if I don't periodically get in there and clean the debris out, the dead leaves, the sticks, the whatever, they'll overflow, they'll erode my driveway, the whole thing. You have to maintain these ditches. Well, on a much larger scale, these creeks needed to be cleaned out periodically, which, you're not going to do that with a shovel. You need to get in there with like a bulldozer or a front end loader or whatever, heavy equipment, and scoop some of this stuff so that the water can run freely. And the reason why it didn't happen? Because the good old EPA said, oh, there's like a, crawfish or, some little guppy or something living in there that we got to protect. You can't get in there with big, heavy equipment. So our local community was not permitted by the federal government to get in there and do what we knew we had to do. And so then naturally, when you get this big, heavy 20 inches of rain, well, what do you think's going to happen? So again, it should have been prevented, and it's sad to see these things that, should be able to be prevented.
Yeah,
that's right. Another reason why we don't need a federal government. We don't need them.
Yeah.
We got state governments. We don't need federal government.
That's why our founders wanted our federal government to be very, very limited, very small in scale. They've grown so bloated and so overpowering. And how do you rein them in now? I mean, like we were talking a little bit earlier about the big, beautiful bill. How do you rein this stuff in? I mean, the big, beautiful bill, there is some good stuff in it. I'm not saying it's all bad. There is some good stuff. It restores a lot of rights to gun owners in several ways. It takes away the tax stamp on, things that, shouldn't have been restricted in the first place. It keeps our taxes from going up. That's certainly good for the American. No tax on tips, stuff like that. That's great. But there's also a lot of stuff in there. Like, for instance, this whole AI thing. They passed a law where now none of the 50 states can enact their own laws against the encroachment of AI. That's taking away states' rights. And that's a big one, because over the next 10 years, we need the ability to make smart decisions about AI. Now, basically, the federal government's just said, hey, we're going to take that away from you. We're taking this under our umbrella. That's
10 years. I give them 1 year, like 1 year. Like AI is advancing so fast. I had a phone call the other day from a organization that was like, hey, let me help you with AI, voice AI, or whatever it is, YouTube, whatever it is. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of interesting. Give them my email. They call me and I'm like, oh, I see what this is. They said it was going to be AI voice driven, but they're sending me a sales rep that's going to be like their salesperson. They're going to be like trying to ask for money or whatever it is. They're going to do a sales pitch on me, right? And about halfway through the conversation, because I'm answering some of it, this lady's questions, I'm like, are you a bot? And she's like, yes, I am. Thank you for asking. And I'm like, I couldn't tell, but I felt like how fast the answers were coming, that this is not a person. But it was a little bit like, oh, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Oh, good. So what are you doing about, like, all of a sudden I'm like, is this a bot? And she's like, yes, it is. This is what we wanted to show you, is how powerful our AI voice bots are that you can't even tell. And I was like, fast forward this 1 year, we're not going to tell who Derek is, who Bob is, who Shane is, because somebody can grab our data or whatever it is. And it is going to be, the next wave is going to be like a flood where we're not going to know. You're going to think your mom is calling you, asking you for a handout or some money or whatever it is because she's in need. And you're like, you know what? My mom did say she was going to the hospital yesterday. So yeah, sure. Here's my credit card. Here's my bank info or whatever. And then the next day your mom calls and is like, how are you, dear? Wait a minute. We just talked yesterday. No, that wasn't me. How are you going to know? How are you going to know that the person that you're talking to on the phone is real? I'm telling you, I had a difficult time figuring out if it was AI, and I knew it was coming because they told me we're going to send information to you to explain how it works. And then I got a real person on the phone. So I thought, no, it's AI. And I couldn't tell. And that's terrifying to a guy that looks at this stuff from every angle, flipping it over, going, are we approaching Revelation where the image of the beast and all this kind of stuff? It's faster than we think. It's 10 times faster than we think.
It has to be, look, Satan has to create an omnipresence all around the world. And that's how he's going to do it, through AI. That's the only way he can. Name any other way he can do it. Angels listening to you and coordinating and doing a Chinese telephone around the world.
Not fast enough.
It's not fast enough. Okay. This whole AI thing is essentially, it's the the beast system. It's the blood of the beast system.
Yeah.
Okay. So the fact that it's gotten so much better, even the videos have gotten so much better. They made such a big deal about the Google Google VEO 3, something like that, where it's very inexpensive now to go out and make videos. Anything that's involved with talking to somebody on a telephone or your phone, email, anything that involves a computer screen.
Yep.
All right. AI's got it.
Yep.
Whatever job that you do on a screen, AI's got it covered. They're done. They got it. Now they're working on, rebuilding roofs and probably many other blue collar jobs now.
Yeah.
All right. But anything dealing with the screen and administration and everything.
Yep.
It's AI's got it covered now.
HR, insurance claims, everything under that banner. Like, you're not going to be able to tell anymore that it's a human. So this is why I feel, as a black swan, and I think my brothers could feel the same thing, as we're closer today than we were yesterday. And I know that's a cliche. I know people toss that around. But when you think how close AI is to getting to the point where it's going to feel like the beast system is omnipresent, that's Revelation stuff. That's not Age of Grace stuff.
Yep.
So we're right on that season where we're actually switching into almost like overtime now. Like, we're out of here. second team comes in now, second string, all those that perhaps wanted to stay behind, all those that thought, you know what, I'm going to fight the Antichrist head on, and I want to get drugged through the mud, and whatever it is, you're on. Next, your team is on. The B team, you're on. A team, out of here. You're in heaven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Talking about how soon the rapture will be. Here we are talking about stuff happening in Texas and stuff like that, and it's just another sign of the times. And yes, eventually now that's done, and people are going to be looking for the next big flood. Okay, just like you said, the next big black swan event. Will it be? Now everybody's checking their stuff now for flood stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but the thing is, they were still in good shape. The problem was that big light beam that shot up over the man manipulation that took place, just like Derek was saying. It was the mountain that you're driving by, it was pretty jagged and the rocks were loose. Okay, so some of them might fall here or there, but if you want to go there and go to the top of the mountain and stick a bunch of C4 in there,
Mm-hmm.
and then detonate it, all right, in the right spot, all right, now you're going to super accelerate everything. That's essentially what they did. They put C4 in the clouds and they detonated it. That's what they did, and they got the results that they wanted. And we'll see. Just watch over the next few weeks. Watch the realtors and watch them come in there and say, "Hey, the government owns this land now. We'll give you $700. Beat it." Okay, so it's dangerous. Can't go in there. We'll watch and see what happens there. But now we know that the rapture is soon, because just to switch gears here a little bit, it keeps. What keeps coming up to me is how soon can the rapture be, or how far can we go before the rapture takes place? Yeah. All right. And I tell you what, I think the farthest we can go is when the ink dries on the covenant with many.
Mm-hmm.
All right. When that ink dries, boom, rapture takes place.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's the farthest we can go. All right. I don't see how that can work. But it's the farthest we can go. That's the beginning of Daniel 17. Once they confirm the covenant with many, when that ink dries, the rapture has to take place.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's three things I watch for. I watch for that covenant with many, which, by the way, that stuff is circulating like crazy right now. One. Two, I watch for nuclear war. And three, I'm watching for a possibility of a grid down here in America.
Mm-hmm.
Any one of those three, rapture, it could be that week.
Right there. Yeah, right there.
Or that day, or that hour, or that minute.
Yeah.
Any of those three.
Absolutely.
You got to watch those three. Anything outside of the realm of those three, it's okay, it's news, whatever. But when you start to get around those three, my antennas really perk up at that point.
Absolutely.
And speaking of which, as soon as I start talking about nuclear wars,
here comes Rick.
Yeah, I just had to get the octane gas going there. Put a little octane in the tank, get it even going faster. Thank you, Shane, for inviting me on your show. I don't know if y'all can hear me loudly.
Sound good.
Yep.
Okay, my
Coming in loud and clear.
Turning itself down on its own again. Another demon in my computer. Guys, it's catastrophic. These flood that took place. They had a timelines video I saw on the Twitter. In 3 minutes, this thing came in. It was normal. People were standing up close to it. They backed away as this thing came. It's like a levee just opened up and dumped it all on this area. Wow. There's a video of a man hospitalized. You know how they have home hospitalization where they have a bed in there. This guy, she did a TikTok video saying, "Please come here, get my husband out of here." He's unresponsive. He's laying there on that hospital. The floodwaters are coming up slowly. She was crying at the end of the video. I almost cried watching it. It's hard to watch. This is truly the last days, guy. We are living right there. We are like this close to the rapture, folks. I'm not playing around. Guys, you're seeing images like this on your TV set. How much closer and how much longer will this last? When will it be time's up? When will the Lord say, "I've had enough. I'm ready to get my church out of here"? We'll be whisked away into paradise while this earth plunges into super big chaos within 1 second. Everybody's not ready for this event. We are, but the world isn't. It's an unexpected surprise event that's about to take place. It's going to come like a flood, an instant flood. It's going to flood the entire planet with fear. Everybody's going to be like, I didn't see that coming. I was too busy drinking my latte at a cafe, looking at the latest sports. While we're sitting here watching every second that could be our last. And a lot of people, and I'm not making it in front of people that are drinking lattes. I'm just saying, I'm using an example that people are at the sleep at the wheel. They're thinking, oh, I got time, or I don't know what those crazy guys are talking about. I'm going to the next YouTube channel. And you just turned off your future by doing that. You just had insight. We just give you a small insight of your future. And people are just brushing off, going to the next channel. Folks, if you don't want to believe us, this channel ain't for you. But we're here to save you from literal hell that's coming, about to hit this planet. It's going to be bad, folks. What a great opening to me coming on here, folks. I always open in on first gear, Bob. It's always top gear of my show, So I'm looking up the sky right now. I don't know about you guys out there, but I am got my eyes to the sky, waiting to hear the horn blow. I can't wait to walk the streets with Jesus, transparent gold. Look at him and say, thank you, Jesus, for being my Lord and Savior. I thank him every night before I go to sleep. And I say it in my prayers. So,
It's interesting. Thank you for that. And I appreciate you coming on here with high octane. I saw someone in the comments say that that there was an earthquake in Japan. I think it was 5 point something on the Richter scale. But there was a prediction that was made, I forget when, 2011, something like that. They called it the what's it called? It's the manga prediction. Basically, that Japan is going to get hit with another tsunami, or this will be the mega of all earthquakes, and that will cause another tsunami that goes all over the place, like including into California, the U.S., all that kind of stuff. So they're talking about it in Japan. Sorry, go ahead.
After you're done.
Yeah, sure. So basically they're saying that in Japan, they're talking about this stuff. And I think the prediction came out like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, or whatever. The idea that Japan could get hit with another one, and this will just send things off the charts. And then, if we're having problems, this is me, Black Swan, saying, I think there could be another big flood in Texas next year, because it's going to take them all year just to do repairs to get everything back online. They're not going to have time to fix what the problem is. And they're in a problem area, because last year it was up to 4 feet of a flood and it hit the same area hard. This year it's 24 feet high. So what do you think is going to happen next year? You're not changing anything right now. You're just hoping that more money comes in to fix stuff. So Texas could be off the map in terms of turmoil next July. Japan is expecting something big. Mumbai always has stuff in the fall, and they're saying Texas is the monsoon that hit, like that monsoon type wind, is what Mumbai gets hit with on the west side of India almost every season in the fall. So you start seeing these pockets lining up. You got a war in Ukraine. You got war that's allegedly over against Iran, which is shocking, surprising. It's all these, everything seems to be pointing in one direction, and that's exit stage right, the church.
Well, this is what I wanted to say real quick before.
Sure.
I didn't mean to cut in on you like that, to do that to you guys. That's rude of me. Listen to me. I forgot to mention this at the beginning when I just came on, that this floods, could it be God? And this is my opinion. Some people might get offended by this, but could God be using these floods, like the one in Texas and the one that's about to hit Japan? The flood is like the flood of Noah. When Noah, he built an ark, and people didn't listen. He built it. He says, come on. They brought only those people on the ark along with the animals. The flood came and they didn't listen. Could it be that God is showing us mini floods around the world in different areas, divers or whatever,
Yeah.
That to warn us symbolically that, guys, the flood is coming. This is what happens when you don't listen and prepare for it. Miniature examples of the big flood that is coming, which is the tribulation period, is symbolically showing us different floods. Now Japan saw this flood, and now they're preparing even more that's going to be us in a few days from now or whenever it hits. They got earthquakes that are like this every day now. 900 plus earthquakes the past, I don't know, week or whatever. Could it be that God is showing us that this is a warning that everybody, the flood is coming, the big one is coming. Either you're on board with us by giving your life to Jesus, or you're going to be caught into that flood, the big one that's going to come at the earth. It's going to sweep this whole earth at the same time, not just in different areas. And I'm not talking about a literal flood. These floods are symbolic to me as the big one, the rapture, and then the earth is going to plunge into chaos. It will be nothing but total destruction after that. And we got the peace and safety thing that's being geared up right now. They're waiting. They're pushing this Abraham Accord. Trump's in the middle, and he put on the banner the new Middle East. They got Arabic neighbors, all the Arabs, all of them are on board with this. It went to 10. The whole planet is going to be pulled into this peace accord. They're getting it ready, folks. In the Bible, it says that the Antichrist comes and makes it greater. He confirms it. He puts the final touches on it and signs it. And that's what starts the 7-year time clock. As soon as he signs that with his pen, it begins the first minute of the tribulation. Folks, if they already got this thing drawn up, how much closer to we are about to go home? That's what I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jesus said in Luke 21 that there will be Luke 21, start verse 25, and there should be signs of sun, moon, stars, and in the stars and upon the earth, the stress of nation, perplexity, the seas and the waves roaring. All right. Now think about that for a minute. Okay. Jesus said the seas and the waves would be roaring. All right. Before his return, and also before Daniel's 70th week begins. Now, he doesn't say, now I will be making the seas and the waves roar. No, he said they're roaring. Okay. He doesn't specify who's making them roar. He's like, he didn't say that. He could have said, now during those times, apostles, there will be mighty men of the earth that will make great weapons of weather destruction that will cause the seas and the waves to roar. He didn't say that. No, he just said, no, the seas and the waves will be roaring. Okay. So the fact that that's happening, that's a regular thing. That stuff never slows down now. No. And the frequency of the earthquakes, all right. Japan is having so many earthquakes now. They said they never stop shaking now. They just don't stop shaking. They're shaking and quaking there all the time now. It never stops. You basically if you go a day without an earthquake, that's a big deal. Now, before it's like one earthquake per year. Now they can't. Now they're looking for a day that there are no earthquakes. That's how insanely close that we are right now. And Trump said last week that he wanted to have the whole Abraham Accords and the Cyrus Accords, this whole thing done with Israel and Hamas and Iran and all this stuff. He wanted to have it all done by this week, right? He said that last week around the 28th of June, all right? So they're working to get this done this week. So the fact that happened, I guess, that took over the news like Shane said. It did. First, you had the big, beautiful bill, and then that bad stuff happened. Then it took over the news. So, well, I guess we'll find out everything that they've been trying to cover that's been covered hasn't made the news. We'll start finding that out, and I'm starting to see that as a pattern now. When something big like this happens, we start finding out a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes. And I like when the people, that narrators that bring that up, say, well, while you've been watching everything happen in Texas, this has been going on over here, So it's just a commonality of everything we've seen happening right now. So if Trump, like I said, that's the main thing we're looking for. And if you guys watch Dr. Barry All, he put on an incredible video about the Feast of New Wine and stuff like that. So it's just an immensely high watch right now. It's like we don't run out of high watch days. Yeah, okay, nothing happened this past There was no rapture resurrection. I didn't say nothing happened this fast 4th of July. Something did happen, but it wasn't good. Okay. But the rapture resurrection event, though, it's still right around the corner right here. Okay. They're not going to let off on all this stuff. No way. All right.
Somebody in the comments from earlier tonight, this actually came in about a little over half an hour ago. Eric the Phoenician. I just wanted to call this out. He wrote, "I bet behind the scenes the U.S. was poking the apple of God's eye." You know, and that could very well be true. We've had many natural disasters that seem to come as a result of us meddling with Israel. And Bob is right. You know, we are into some very high watch times. You know, I've been kind of keeping my eye on the Feast of New Wine. I've seen, you know, Dr. Barry and Tyler from Generation 2434, you know, put that stuff out. And that's always an interesting one to watch. I actually put out a video last week while I was away on vacation. Instead of doing unanswered questions, I did one on Tish B'Av, which most people don't know of. They're not aware of. This is the day. It's just so it can't be coincidence. Okay. There's like an old saying that with God, there is no coincidence. So Tish B'Av, it's the 9th day of the month of Av on the Jewish calendar. This is the day that the 12 spies came back, and 10 of them had a bad report. And so they were cursed to wander for 40 years. And it has become a day that's almost been kind of like a cursed day throughout the years. Both, believe it or not, both temples, the first and the second temple, both destroyed on Tish B'Av. And so I did this whole teaching, and this was actually from a couple of years ago, and I just replayed it because I was on vacation. I thought, well, this will be fun. But, you know, I did this whole teaching on how the Spirit of God was removed from both temples on this same day. Could it be that the restrainer, the Spirit of God, is removed from this earth because we're told our bodies are like the temple? Is it possible that it could also happen on Tish B'Av, which falls right in the middle of this new wine thing that Dr. Barry talks about? And what was funny was, as I was checking this thing out, I actually get emails every day. And my emails are from like Haaretz, which is an Israeli newspaper. And it says like day, blah, blah, blah of the war. You know, like in other words, when October 7th started, they started a countdown. It's like day 300 of the war, day 500 of the war. We are into day like 600 something. And it just like, I'm like, I got to check this out. So I did a time date calculator. Do you realize that from October 7th, 2023, when the war with Hamas first started, when all this mess, this whole powder keg got lit off in the Middle East, from October 7th, 2023, count forwards to August 2nd, I think it is, which is Tish B'Av, either August 2nd or August 3rd. I can't remember, guys, but it's either August 2nd or August 3rd is Tish B'Av this year. 666 days. That's freaky, man. You can't make that stuff up. So, you know, a lot of stuff to watch, a lot of high watch stuff going on. And I'll shut up after this one other
What
thing
is that,
too.
27 days from now?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're coming right up on it. And
What
I saw
day
these
is
other
that?
comments I thought that were funny too. Watchman said this, and Patty Templeton both brought up the two witnesses will control the weather in the tribulation. So, guys, I just wanted to bring that up. That I think it's amazing. We've been talking about the evils of man and how man is destroying the earth. They've got some real rough news coming to them when in the tribulation they can't control the weather anymore, and the two witnesses are in charge. They got some real rough news coming from God.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. The Nordics. Oh, were you about to say something, Bob?
No, I'm saying that's a great point, Derek. I'm
Yes,
glad to
it
hear
is.
that. I hope the two witnesses really tear the crap out of them.
Yep.
You know, there's talk, and I might have this wrong the way I say it, but in Trump, they're talking about Trump and the Nordic beings, which an alien civilization of the Pleiadians and all that. They're all linked, of course, to fallen angels. They're just different classes of fallen angels. They call themselves Pleiadians or Nordics. And Trump is expecting, or I'm not going to say Trump is expecting. I don't know. I have to go back and look at the video again. They're saying that Trump is withholding some kind of secrets or something about the Nordics, and they're going to present themselves. You know, I'm seeing videos, and I don't believe in all this stuff in the videos, because a lot of the stuff is all, you know, geared by Satan and his lies. But these Nordic beings, people call remote viewers, that they have connections to these demons. That's what they're really talking to. They think they're talking to them out there on another planet. No. Vega, Centurions, all that stuff. They think they're in high communication with these guys always in a planet light years away. Really, what they don't realize, they're communicating with spirits, which are linked. They're basically from hell. Satan's got it all wrapped around the finger. He say, look, guys, I got them all fooled thinking they're coming from another planet. You know, there was something about a signal received from I think SETI, or was it NASA, or somebody said something, they got a signal just a few days ago. You know, folks, we know that Satan can fake signals from outer space to make us all believe that we're coming into contact with another civilization. You know, they want us to believe that we were seeded on this planet by them, and that they're coming back to fix what is broken by man. They're coming here soon, and what we're hearing in videos, that there's rumors that they're getting ready to break the skies, come down here and fix a broken world. They're going to come here with all these cures of all these diseases that we've created, or not created, but some probably were, but all the diseases that came from all the Earth's pollution. They're going to clean all that up, starting with the healing centers they're going to put down everywhere, which was improved in the Hollywood movies, reconditioning, like the movie V. They're going to come here like that, folks. I believe right at the rapture, they're going to come and show up. Satan's like, got his hands. He's like, come on, hurry up, get these Christians out of here. And they're going to come down here, and they're going to come up, show up in the masses, I believe, at the same time. And they're going to say, look, we need a representative for us. This guy will represent all the class of aliens. Probably just the Nordics will show up, and they're going to need a representative to represent their coming. Who more would be the man of choice for that? Would be the Antichrist. He will come. They will show up with them. And these creatures are 7 foot tall, gray hair, snow white, super sky blue eyes. They can communicate either verbally or telepathically. Stern looking chins. They're tall, 7 foot. Their clothes are one-piece outfits. They have an insignia on them, I heard. And they're sort of a different color. Some of it's sort of a goldish color. Whatever it is they're wearing, I don't care what they're wearing. They're going to show up with these people. They're going to say, look, we're here to help you with your planet. We see what you've done with it over the thousands of years period. We were here thousands of years ago, or longer than that, actually. They might even add 100,000 years. And people are going to say, look, we believe this lie. It's called a big delusion. It's going to sweep this planet. God says he will cause them to believe a lie. This delusion, I believe, is forthcoming in the making. When this things show up, everybody's going to believe it. And they're going to say, look, they can go where you think you've heard. They've gone. The Palladians and the Antichrist, they're going to say they've gone. We've took these people somewhere to heal them, to give them probably a better body. We want to finish the work here. Make your planet like the one they went to. They're going to come up with a convincing story that everybody's going to buy into it. Guess what, guys? It's a lie. It's a big lie from the pit of hell. They went with Jesus to heaven. They will not tell you this. None of it will come out. And it will be a CIA operation on steroids. They will make sure nobody breathes a word on the internet about where those. Every video, of course, will be wiped off this internet. All our channels will be gone day one when the rapture. Expect the internet to shut off, and the power. They're going to kill the power first. Then they're going to go in and delete all the videos while the power is off. They're going to have generators backed up at YouTube. They're going to say, look, delete them all now, or your license and your website will be pulled. You will not be YouTube anymore. They'll threaten them. No problem. We'll do it. And that's it, folks. When the power gets back on, whoa, all the internet will look different. It'll be blocked by government sites. Survival sites will be on there for people like from the government. FEMA sites will be on live. All the sites will be live. But guess what? You'll go to YouTube. It will look different. When you type in, where do these people go? You're going to get a lot of sites that don't talk about the rapture. Like I said, folks, it's all coming. Get ready.
Yeah, I agree with you. I talked about that last week. That's all that all of the New Age people, they all agree, and all their literature and even their mediums, they all have been instructed, and they all been told that Christians are not compatible with these beings that are coming here to the earth. So they're all told that Christians are, because basically they're saying to all of them that this Jesus that came screwed everything up. All right.
Wow.
And we're coming here to fix all that. So that's why the Christians have to go. Okay. So this Jesus, we're going to fix all that. All right. But this why all the Jesus believers, all right, they are anti everything about us because we've been trying to get people to be normalized with transgenderism, and all these things are fourth density stuff, guys. Transgenderism, higher energy, vibration, all weird stuff, and psychedelic stuff, and that's all in that realm of with transgenderism and all this other physical stuff that they do. All right. So that, and they know that Christians are nope, that's bad, 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 which is true. Okay. So they know that Christians are their number one enemy. And they're just going to say, well, why is it Christian? Well, does that mean the rapture is true, that Jesus was true? No, that's that whole thing that the Christians got it all wrong. Just like what they said about Muhammad and stuff like that. Muhammad said we just got it all wrong. Islam's the right way, So that's why the Christians have to be removed and taken to another location and be retrained. You guys have not been corrupted like the Christians were. So you guys are ready to fight and take your place here on the earth and renew this world. Essentially, that's what the new age people believe. Okay. Yeah. And even like the Albert Pike letters, they say the same thing too. All right. Christianity, and it's all about Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Those three. And they all kind of deal with Jesus. Okay, Jesus, Judaism, which is wrong for the most part because they're in blindness right now. All right, they got all the traditions of men in there. Islam is way wrong. That got created because of Antichrist. Everything that was Christianity, it was a bad mirror image of Christianity. So everything, they took it, just twisted it to serve the devil. All right, but everything, all that stuff came because of Jesus. So those are your three main religions on the planet. Why I think they're trying to bring all three of them together. Because when they get all three of them together and these guys show up to say, Jesus, that whole deal with Jesus, you guys got it all wrong. Everybody come together. Let us reteach you. Oh, the Christians, hey, no. So guess what? We removed them. You're welcome. But that's great that you removed them. But what about all these other Christians over here now? There are new Christians coming up now that they were left behind. Well, they weren't Christians before. They're becoming Christians now. So what we got to do is use the AI system to track them all down. And for your sake, we're going to kill them all by beheading them. So that way they won't corrupt you guys. So we got more Christians coming up. We're going to behead all of them, get rid of all of them. So that way we'll just have this wonderful world left over, this fourth density world left over for all you to enjoy. And we'll start we'll do a brand new reset by 2030. So they removed the Christians at the rapture, and then any new Christians coming up, they just cut all their heads off. Okay, because when they introduce the mark of the beast, that's all going to be alien tech. And they know that the Christians that are coming up during the tribulation, brand new believers, they're going to be no. And that's why I think they justify why everybody who's a Christian at that point, the tribulation saints, have to be beheaded. That's because it's for the goodness, it's for the good for the whole human race. Mm-hmm. Get rid of these anybody that talks good about Jesus. Get rid of them.
I agree with you, Bob. I totally see it coming.
I almost wish in some ways Josh was on the channel because there's been rumors, and I can't quite formulate this or put this together to argue for this or against this or whatever, but I've heard rumors that people are saying that some of this stuff could be linked to child sacrifice, regards to camps with children missing, all this kind of stuff, that it's like some kind of a satanic ritual or something. Because I think it was like in the 50s, maybe it was the 80s, they call it like the satanic 80s or something like that in Texas, where there were so many churches coming under attack because there were satanic rituals coming on all over the place in Texas, and it got squashed but it was a thing that happened. And today, if you look back in time, they'll say, no, that was just folklore or whatever it was. But that's Texas. So you start thinking, last year, another camp got washed away in July. And this year, again in July, the 8th month of this year, 2025, is there some kind of ritual that's going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of or not paying attention to, that is an attack on children in the United States of America? I would suggest it feels like there's something like that. I just can't prove it with these weather patterns and all kinds of stuff. It just feels like, okay, look here. Okay, tomorrow, look here. Like they're almost like they're forcing us to look in certain directions without being able to think through things. I don't know what you guys' thoughts are on that.
You know, I don't want to say this the wrong way and people would be mad at me or offended, but why Texas? Why the flood there? And I'm going off piggyback on what you're saying, Shane. Why did God send judgment there to that area? What is going on there that he did? Now, I'm not saying he did. It could have just been just an, unforeseen event that happened, or something. But, it seems like we look at different parts of the world. We see an event happen, a tragic event. Could it be that God is judging? Yes. And then no. We don't know. It could be just an event that has happened, but that's why you got to be very careful when I say that. People would be like, wait a minute, Ray, what do they do wrong? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that watch the different areas of the world and you go backtrack to the history of what goes on in that area.
Yeah.
I'm kind of going what you're saying, Shane. Let's say there's a state that's doing something really bad all the time. And all of a sudden they have a massive earthquake there a week later. That's a good example.
Yeah.
So what is going on in that particular that could have caused that? Or did it just happen of a natural cause? We don't know for sure. Okay. Good point there, Shane. People do stuff. Like I said, if let's say another country attacks Israel really bad and that country gets an earthquake, another good example. I'm just saying.
I think it's interesting because, as we read through the four gospels, we have we have the words of Jesus, the words in red, but they're very limited. He John said of the things that he taught that, the books of the world could not have contained them. So anytime we come across one of these words in red, something that Jesus said, it has to be very important for him to have included it in his gospels. We could all agree on that, I'm sure, and so it makes me think of, there's a verse in Matthew 18 verse 10 where Jesus says, take heed that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I say to you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father who's in heaven. There's another place too where he talks about, be careful that you don't offend one of these little ones.
Yes.
You'd be better off with a millstone tied to
We
your neck.
talked about that the other day.
Yeah, so there's obviously something there that he felt the need to include that, to warn.
Yes.
And I don't, back in the day in context, the disciples were kind of brushing him aside, like, get out of here, kid. You bother me. Get out of here. Don't bother the master.
Yeah.
All right. But I don't really think that's what the warning was about. I mean, in context, that's where the warning came in. I think it might have been about what's going on in the latter days, in our days. I think that children are being abused probably a lot more than we're being led to understand. Obviously the media only, the media blows this off as, Pizzagate and a bunch of kooks and all this other stuff. And, some of it may be kooky conspiracy theory stuff. I'm not discounting that, but I think some of it's probably very real. And we only see the tip of the iceberg. I think that's why Jesus put those warnings in place, because of the days we live in. I do think that children are being abused because, let's face it, the age in which we live in, evil men are waxing worse and worse. Those that are the weakest among us, the elderly and the children, are the most abused.
Yep.
Look at what happened with the elderly during the pandemic in the nursing homes.
It was a nightmare right before our eyes. They were abandoned.
If you're weak and you're capable of being abused, there are evil men and evil women in this world that will abuse you. We still don't know. I mean, Ghislaine Maxwell is still in jail. Supposedly Epstein suicided himself. We don't know, but Ghislaine Maxwell is still alive and well and in jail, accused of child trafficking. And we still don't know the names of anybody that she trafficked children to. So, there's just a lot going on that, we only see the tip of the iceberg. I think that's why Jesus talked about that. I think that's a stern warning for those with ears to hear. Sadly, the people that are doing it, they don't have ears to hear. That's just going to be judgment against them.
Yeah, and I think like we're tying into something here with, and this is interesting because it's not the direction that I wanted to go in at the beginning of the show. Let's just talk about Texas and Black Swan events. Now we're going towards children, and perhaps maybe this is a bit of a warning to the watchers, the watchmen out there that are watching end time stuff, that maybe we have to be on alert for our children to protect them spiritually as well, physically and spiritually, and praying. All our kids are going to school because they are facing World War III when they go into schools. They have drag queens that are reading books to them. They have books in libraries that shouldn't be there, and they're not targeting our young adults. They're targeting kids that are like 6 years old, 7 years old. That's what they're going after. And I think as a Christian father, now grandfather, if we're not careful, we can let this stuff slip through the cracks. And I think perhaps we could be held accountable to this as well by not raising a siren for this stuff.
When they said that all those little girls disappeared during that flood, I was like, how perfect.
Yep. Yeah.
I was like, did they really disappear? Did Joe Biden send his boat over there to get them all, then took them somewhere?
Horrible, man.
I was just like, I'm sure that's not the case, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
That somebody's like, well, hold on a second. We got some little girls' camps over here. Hey, we'll send a bus over there. Hey, get out, jump on this bus. There's a flood coming.
There is a video.
Why wouldn't you want to jump on the bus? Like you're thinking people are helping you.
There is a video on X, I think Twitter or TikTok. I saw it somewhere. It showed a military light vehicle. I think it showed all little girls on the back of it, and one of them waved as they went by.
Yeah, I heard military vehicles were picking up school children.
Yeah.
There.
So
we'll see where that, and all of a sudden can't find them. What happened?
Yeah.
So they're rounding up children for these government officials and whoever these sick
I sure
people
hope
are.
not, because like
I
you
hope
said,
judgment goes on them for that. Damn them to hell for that.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough watching all the. It's tough. I tell you what, isn't it tough being a watchman right now?
Yeah,
because not only do we have to sit here and see these incredible alignments just go right by one after another like a train,
and we're still here. That's
what. But we also have to. This is a time where you have the most evil, most disgusting, filthy, the worst of the worst people walking the earth before the tribulation begins. After the tribulation begins, it gets worse after this. But this is what the worst age of grace will ever see. What we're seeing right now is the worst condition that the world has ever been during the age of grace. And we're here right at the end of this whole thing, seeing all these filthy, disgusting people, and everything they're doing is being brought out into the light. All the stuff they've been doing, they've been able to hide it. They can't hide it no more. Bible talks about this stuff's gonna be shouted from the housetops. Stuff they do in secret, it's gonna be shouted from the housetops. And unfortunately, we're seeing it shouted from the housetops. They can't hide nothing no more. Okay, it's getting shouted from the housetops so bad, they have to manipulate news cycles in order to try to redirect everybody's attention, just so that most people won't watch it. Okay, but that's just where we're at right now. That it's tough being a watchman, isn't it? Tough right now.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like when you think about patterns, like they're saying at least 27 girls are missing, and it's like you want us to believe that all 27 girls at the same time washed down the river with no evidence. That's what you want us to believe, that they were just washed down during this flood. And it is highly suspect that the count is so high with regards to little girls. And I pray that they get found. I pray for judgment on whoever it is, if they're doing something up to no good, as in kidnapping or whatever it is.
It's a cover story probably for the kidnapping. I'm just saying, you never know.
If there's something going on where somebody is owed something, like, hey, government official, you did something over here. We're giving you 4 girls, 6 girls, 10 girls, or whatever. Man, I'm telling you, maybe there's a reason why some of these weather
I
patterns are
just want to
getting
punch a hole in
worse.
the wall right now. Just
You
hearing
know,
this. Can we just change the subject, guys? Just hearing this.
No, I think
sick-
it's a good. I
it's
think
a
we're making.
sick filth that's going on right
You know,
now. You know,
it's funny
and these
because
guys are going to have their part in the lake of fire. You know who you are out there, folks.
it's funny because years ago I was in a discussion on a forum, a Rapture forum, just a message board type thing, and I was in a discussion with another brother, and we were kind of talking about the subject that came up. We were talking about, Lot, and how you would not have thought that Lot was a righteous man if it wasn't for Peter, who told us that Lot's righteous soul was vexed by the things that he saw every single day in Sodom and Gomorrah. And this brother came back with a really interesting comment that this was years ago that probably 10 years or better that he made this comment. It stuck with me all those years. And he said, who really knows what's worse, if it was worse for Lot to live in Sodom and Gomorrah and see what he saw, or if it's worse for us Christian watchmen today to live in this age in America and see what we see.
Yeah.
Our souls are vexed, just like Rick is saying, our souls are vexed because of what we know is going on. And it could be that we are living in times worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. I'm just throwing that out there because that's always
People, I'm sorry, but some people are sort of like against what I just said. Listen to me. When I say I didn't want to hear about this stuff about the children and all that being kidnapped, it was just pissing me off, and it's pissing all of us off to hear about this. It's disgusting. And I didn't want to hear any more about it because it was pissing me off because it's a sick, evil world we live in. Yep. Now we should address it and talk about it and let people know what's going on. I get that. Now, I said change this up because I was personally bothered by it, and we all are personally bothered by it. But we do need to talk about it. It's just hard to sit here and listen
for
to
sure.
it. And that is the only reason why I said that, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Please continue talking about it. But
and what we're trying
it needs to be
to
addressed. People need to know what's going on, and let it be heard. Shane, go ahead.
Yeah, and what we're talking about is not the gory whatever stuff. We're just saying if it's highly coincidental that 27 girls are missing all at once without one. Like if they found a girl here, a boy here, an adult here, you know what I mean, a grandparent here stuck in the tree, whatever it is, and they're like trying to rescue them, and then you can kind of buy in. But right out of the gate, that's the first thing they said. Is that a call out to the media in the realms of principalities, powers, to say that we either sacrificed girls or we are performing our part of the deal, which is to kidnap or whatever it is? Like, I'm not saying that's what happened, but as a black swan, sometimes things pop in that it's like, I never thought about that. It's really weird that they had a number right out of the gate and there's no sign of anyone.
So, I think it's important, Shane, that you said that. And I think it's important we address, because someone just put in your comments, somebody named Prepper Don just said, stop spreading fake news. No one was kidnapped. Okay, look, we're not saying that anyone was kidnapped. We don't know. We're just looking at it as kind of an odd coincidence. But Prepper Don, you cannot deny that girls are being abducted. There is child trafficking in this country. There is sex slavery. There is more slavery in this country now than there were in the days when there was the racial slavery that happened during the Civil War times. And that's not me. That's independent organizations is saying there is more human trafficking in our days. These current days. You don't want to think about it because nobody wants to think about slavery. Nobody wants to think about child trafficking. It's disgusting. But we need to face the reality. It's going on. Now, did it happen during this flood? We don't know, but we're just looking at it objectively and saying, hey, it is a possibility in this sick, twisted world we live in. You have to entertain that possibility. So, sir, I'm just addressing you in particular. We're not spreading fake news.
No.
We're looking at it as this could be a possibility.
It's the same idea of having a home being raided and you don't know who's coming to the door, and they knock on the door and they say they're a police officer.
Right.
Sometimes they don't give you ID or whatever. And if you panic, you let them in. And all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. These guys were not cops at all. They just said they were, but I thought they were. That's almost what we're thing, because you're in a distressed area, you're going to be susceptible to law enforcement coming in that they say they're law enforcement, but they might not be. And you're going to be like, oh, I got to listen to what you say because there is no leadership here. So I'm going to go with you, whatever it is. And it's difficult because we're in a democratic society that we trust our authority more than perhaps some days we should. And a flood would be the perfect circumstance to move in. And I'm not saying the army's evil or wicked, but if that happened, nobody would question it.
Right.
You just move in with these green trucks. They may not even be army. We don't know. And they just say, hey, look, we're going to rescue you. And then boom. And nobody's rescued.
Like Ronald Reagan used to say, the
Mhm.
scariest words in the world are, I'm from the government. I'm here to help you. There's a lot of people in the comments saying only 11 girls are still missing. And you know what? No matter the number, whether it's 11, whether it's 100, whether it's one,
Yes,
if it's a
one is
child
too
that's
many.
still alive and missing, it's one too many. And there's a lot of people in the comments saying we should pray. So I think that's probably, let's say a quick prayer just for
Yeah, for
everybody
sure.
affected. Let's
Yep.
take a moment and
For
just,
sure.
in Jesus' name, we come together, Father, as four brothers here. We're all of one spirit, one heart.
Yes.
We all feel the same way about this situation. The loss of life in this situation has been devastating. We pray for everybody in that community that's been affected by flooding, by loss of life. We pray you bring peace and comfort and closure to anyone who's lost a loved one. For anyone who's still missing, Lord, we pray, Lord, that there would be peace and closure, that they would either be found safe or that they would be found, that they might be able to be given a proper funeral. Don't let anybody, Lord, just be out there not knowing what happened to them. And please, Lord, don't let anybody be caught up in an evil scheme of somebody
Yes.
who sees this as an opportunity to abuse somebody, someone weaker than them. Lord, look down with special care. We know your eye is on the widow and on the orphan, and you always have special care for those who are weak and who are powerless. That's what the scripture teaches us. That's why it's not inclusive to widows and orphans. You look down on anyone who's helpless. You look
Yes.
down on all of us when we were helpless in our sin, and you gave us your son Jesus to save us from your sin. So Lord, we just pray your mercy over this entire situation right now, over those that are still missing and over those that have lost loved ones, and pray no further damage would be done over this area in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
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 All right. With that, let's go into final thoughts. We'll start with Derek, Rick, and Bob.
Well, final thoughts for me, having just come back off of vacation, and this is an interest. This is kind of like my first show to do right after I got back off of my vacation. So, I was telling you a little bit about the places that I went. The last place I went was the Ark Encounter in Kentucky, where they've got a life-size Ark, and throughout the whole exhibit, they were very good about presenting the gospel and very good about comparing our days to the days of Noah. Now, these Texas floods, it's just one more example to show us we are living in days similar to those days of Noah. And the message is still the same. Just like the people in Noah's day rebelled against God, they were ripe for judgment. Our day is very much ripe for judgment. And, the thing that's the saddest is, like, in the Ark exhibit, they had a couple little movies you could watch. One of them, they're a little campy. One of them was like Noah giving an interview to the reporters of his day. Of course, they're scratching it on a stone or whatever, and they're mocking him for building the Ark. And, we still have mockers today. That was the whole point of that Ark exhibit. They drove that point home wonderfully, that Jesus is the door. Just like there was a door in that Ark, and only those that went in that Ark got saved. Jesus is that door, and we are due judgment. We are overdue judgment. We are in judgment overtime right now. So don't mess around. The door is about to close. You have the opportunity to get in it right now. Get in it. Do not wait, because when that door is shut, there'll be people banging on the outside saying, "Let me in," and the Lord's going to say, "I never knew you. You didn't come in when I told you to come in." This is the age of grace. Don't miss your chance to get on board that Ark.
Yep. Amen to that. My final thoughts, closing thoughts is we're in desperate times, and people will take any sort of help they can get when tragedy strikes. So, those girls, they seen people coming, they all had their hands in the air like this, help us. They said, "Oh, come on aboard, guys, get them all on it." And they whisked them off to some dark camp somewhere. Or did they actually take them to where they were supposed to go? Okay. We don't know for sure. Like I said, Derek said, we're all just saying it's a speculation. We don't know. Okay. But where I'm going with this is we are all in desperate times, and people will accept any help that they can get with this planet to fixing it. Rather it's receiving the Nordics, the Antichrist, all that. Their world will be crying out. The whole world will have its hands out in the air, begging for a man to fix it all, or someone to fix a planet that's broken. This is where the Antichrist will gain his acceptance, I should put it, because they all will marvel over this man. They'll say, oh, finally, someone that knows what they're doing, that's going to fix it all, that can bring true everlasting peace, whether it is for 7 years, actually 3.5 years. But they're going to accept, a world will welcome such a man at a time when a world is in a hot mess right now. This world is terrible. It's all messed up right now. This is the kind of climate that we will see, the way the world will look like at the time of the rapture of the church. It's not going to, if this would have happened 50 years ago, the world wasn't in a mess 50 years ago. Okay. It had its little things here and there, but it wasn't like this. Okay. Not the way it is now. And the world wouldn't care less if some man came out on that 50 years ago. But now, the way this world looks now, it's a big mess. And the world is desperate for someone to fix it. That's where we're sitting at. God had it all figured out at the beginning, the timing of the rapture. He saw all this thousands of years ago, or way before that, even before the foundation of earth. Okay? He saw it all coming. He says, I'm going to put the rapture right about here, because all this is going to be going on just before it happens, before the rapture happens. All the deception, the AI, the robots, everything, all has to be done before this rapture takes place. Could it be this year? Is this the year he said it? We don't know. Sure, looks good. We don't know. Let me just close with this. Are you going to be ready, though, when it happens? Are you going to be ready when tragedy strikes?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you need to be ready for. The tragedy that you may lose your life unforeseen. You walk out your door and you're dead and you end up in hell because you didn't listen to the warnings, or you did, most of all, didn't take your life as into your heart, the blood of Christ. That's what I'm saying, folks. Get ready for anything that can happen. Be rapture ready, or for any sort of foreseen event like a black swan event, such as the one in Texas that happened. Is it a black swan event or an earthquake? Whatever kind of tragedy that strikes, you will be ready regardless, either for the death or be ready for the rapture. When it happens, your feet will leave the ground and we will go up and depart into heaven. Folks, get your priorities straight with God by asking Jesus in your heart today. Do it now, folks.
Amen.
Good. It's good. Bob?
Yeah, my good show tonight. We're angry, and some people are saying that these people who are destroying the earth. The Bible said God's going to destroy those who destroy the earth, and they're destroying the earth now. Okay, so people listening to us and say, yeah, we're going to be judging these folks, and here I am, tell them, saying, hey, these people need to be thrown to the deepest parts of hell. All right. Now, some people might not like saying this, and that goes back to the fact that, we Christians, we judge the world now, and we're going to judge this world at the white throne judgment. Okay. Apostle Paul talks about that, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, where he says, do you not know that the saints shall judge the world? And if the world shall be judged by you, are ye unworthy to judge the smallest of matters? And know ye not that we shall judge angels? How much more things that pertain to this life? Okay.
Bingo.
So we judge the world. So here's the thing. If Christians judge the world, then it makes it really uncomfortable for us to be here for these guys. It's really uncomfortable for them that we're here because we judge them. Nobody else judges them. Nobody else judges all these filthy people and the LGBTQ community and all that stuff. Nobody else judges them. essentially nobody else except Christians. And
Yeah.
these people and all the other weirdos and freaks and the weird religions and the alien stuff, who's always being judgmental? The Christians are being judgmental.
Yeah.
Okay. But the Bible says we judge the world
Yeah.
because we have the Holy Spirit inside us.
It's-
We know the right way. We're saved. And
Yeah.
we're repulsed by all this evil. That's why we can't help but speak and judge against it. So this is why the narrative is the Christians must be removed at the rapture. So that way these people can have just open season to the greatest of their heart's delight of all their filth and sin without any restraint.
Yeah.
Okay. And the people, and there will be people that will begin popping up everywhere, brand new people.
Mhm.
And guess what they're going to be doing? Don't do that. Don't do that. Filthy person, don't do that. Don't listen to them. You're bad. You're evil. Don't do that. So you wonder why they end up getting their heads cut off.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's what's coming. And I just wanted to mention that. And I don't know what else to say. And these people that what happened with these little girls. Sorry, man. It just seems too perfect. And they kept on talking about these little girls, like you said, Shane, that they kept talking about. They say, hey, listen to our news. Here's your sacrifice. Here's your 27 girls. Here's your girls here. Your girls here. We're letting the whole world know. I'm sure you're listening, Mr. Person that were sacrificed, Mr. Baal, whatever Baal people.
Yeah.
There's your sacrifice. And you know what's going to happen when this all thing is said and done? You think it was all 27 girls? You know what usually happens? Is there will be all these girls, but then it always drops down to 13 girls total.
Yeah.
Got lost, or 11 girls got lost. That's your sacrifice.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll see it. We'll see it pan out over the next few weeks. You'll see. Watch.
Yeah, I think so, because that happened with Maui. I think at first it was like 2,000 and then 500, and then the final count was 66.
Yep.
Children missing. So it's like, that's interesting. And you're right about, like, if you think about it as a Christian, people are like, don't be so judgy. It's like, well, it's in our DNA. You can't judge me because you're not a Christian, but I could judge the actions that you're doing. What you're doing is wrong before God Almighty. Stop it, or something worse will happen to you. I feel like we can say that to people to turn them around and correct them. Jesus said this: if somebody harms a child, it would be better. Here's a better situation. Put a millstone around his neck and drown him. That's better. So if our Lord and Master says that, and he says something like, even in Psalms, it says, you know what? Jesus said, woe to the person. Like, I got to get betrayed. I'm going to be betrayed. But woe to that person that betrays me. Who was that? That was Judas Iscariot. It would have been better that he were not born. That's pretty harsh. Pretty harsh. So what we're saying is, you touch a child on my watch. If I had the authority, I would say, here's where all the sludge and slime, and here's where hell is. I'm going to put you below all that stuff. That's what I'm saying. That's where you deserve. You got to get yourself right with God. But if you're doing this kind of demonic activity, there's going to be a harsher judgment than what I can ever conjure up in my head as a human being. I think you're worthless right now as a person, that if you touch a child knowingly, you are touching and harming a child. When parents are going on TV saying, bring my child back, and you know about this or whatever it is, even if you didn't do it and you know someone else that is responsible, you're held just as accountable as that person is. That's all we're saying. Just in the spiritual realm of things, that's what we're talking about. We're not saying this exactly happened this way, but you gotta overturn every single stone. And some of the stones are ugly. They are. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you don't mind, just stick around in the back. I'll say bye to everyone. Thank you, guys.
You got it.
God bless everybody. Take care.
Take
God
care,
bless. Good
guys.
night, everybody.
Awesome. So feel free to check out Bob Barber's channel, End Time Dream and Vision. Also, Bible study with Derek. He has a Bible study just about every single week, sometimes 2-3 times a week. And also tomorrow night, Rick has his Prophecy Mondays. So make sure and check out his show tomorrow night as well. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. You could have been doing anything else this July weekend, but you decided to hang out with us. So we really appreciate you. Thank you very much and have a fantastic evening. See you later. Bye.
Black Swan Revelations here on YouTube brought you today's mind-bending journey. Dive into the discussion, your comments, questions, prayer requests, and powerful testimonies of Jesus' love are what fuel this community. Did today's episode hit home? Smash that like button. New here? Subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a live stream or a video upload. Thanks for being part of today's adventure. Catch you in the next video, or maybe even in the clouds. Stay curious, stay blessed.